Welcome to this session of Creating Communities on Modular Construction. You'd buy a car in a factory, but would you buy a street in one? Street made in a factory. Can modular homes create streets that are not only beautiful, but also healthy and popular? And are they part of the solution, or are they just an excuse to lower costs? What makes a good and happy place? And can modular homes deliver this? Homes built using modern methods have 80% fewer defects, says the government, and can cut heating bills by up to 70%. But what are the risks? I am Martina Lees, a senior property writer for the Times and Sunday Times, and I'll be chairing this session where we have some of the biggest names in modular construction to answer these questions. On our panel is Mark Farmer, the government's independent champion for modern methods of construction, or MMC for short. Mark has 30 years experience in construction and property as the founder of Cast Consultancy. And he wrote a review of the UK's construction labour model with the hard-hitting title, Modernise or Die. Also with us is Robert Luck, the co-founder and MD of Latest Group, a developer that uses modular construction to make highly sustainable and affordable homes for modern living. Robert tells me that it's not just about building homes in a development, it's about building our community. And since 2011, Latest has built large eco schemes in Kent, Hertfordshire, and in Covent Garden, all with the principle of creating high-quality communities. And finally, we have Rosie Toogood, who leads Legal and General's modular business. Having joined from Rolls-Royce, Rosie is in charge of L&G's 550,000 square foot factory in Leeds, which can produce up to 3,500 homes a year. Unfortunately, Francis Terry, the classical architect, can't join us because of a family emergency. So each of the speakers will now have 5 minutes to do their presentation, and please comment throughout the presentation so we can have a really lively discussion at the end. So I'll hand over to Mark Farmer to fill us in first.
Thank you, Martina, and good morning, everyone who's on this call. This is a really interesting debate that brings together lots of different dimensions of quite emotive discussion in the house building sector. So we have a debate about how we build homes, and challenging perhaps some of the very archaic ways in which we've delivered not just house building but general construction for a long time. And part of what Modern Methods is about is actually challenging that and suggesting there is a different way, there is a more modern way of approaching the whole process. But clearly this whole conference and the agenda is about how do you combine that in a way that actually creates great places, and that's a lot more than just the method that's being used to deliver the home. So we've got a really interesting sort of overlap, a Venn diagram, if you like, of the method and the construction technologies that are being used, and great design and placemaking, and you know the challenge is, can we do both? And I'm firmly in the camp of suggesting we can. And if anything, I would say that the method we use to build homes is just that. It's a means to an end. And we shouldn't get het up about this fixation that modular build or manufactured build has to look any different from traditional homes. I think part of the challenge is actually that a lot of traditional homes don't look very good. And what we don't necessarily want to do is create facsimiles in the manufactured sense of what are poor quality, poor designed, traditional built homes either. So that's another dimension to this that we can't forget. But I'm very much of the opinion, and this week I've launched another report from the Modernise or Die report that Martina referenced, which I've co-authored with an architect, and that was a deliberate at Mike DF, called Build Homes, Build Jobs, Build Innovation. And what it suggests is that we can absolutely address this concern about good looking buildings that are built differently, that create great communities and places that people want to live in. And in doing that, address a lot of what the government are talking about at the moment in terms of the levelling up agenda. So clearly building homes in factories and then bringing them to sites distributes economic growth on a much broader basis around the UK. You're not centralising it all at the point of delivery. If you do manufactured homes well, you have a much better carbon footprint, both in terms of embodied carbon in the process. There's much less waste. We waste 50% of everything we do in traditional construction, but also the energy performance of the homes as well can be a lot better. We can create a whole new generation of jobs for young people and reskilling people that may be already in construction or are coming out of declining industries, including automotive and the like, particularly in post-pandemic. We need to think about using manufacturing skills in a different way, and also using technology to create more choice. One of the things we have as a challenge here is how do we create more choice in the home building market, and the link to digital design and digital manufacturing and customization that you see in the car building industry. For instance, when we go and buy a car, we customize it on a website and we place an order. We can move our home building industry gradually in that direction. It's not there yet, but it can be. And I think that the planning white paper that's been talked about a lot thus far in this conference is an enabler for change. I definitely see the potential to join the dots between manufacturing and digital planning, particularly if it moves in the direction of design codes and pattern books, which is the sort of the narrative that's being portrayed. A great opportunity to join the dots and to create a sense of rules-based planning that then drives design solutions, that then drives scalable manufacturing solutions that can include large players, SMEs, can include solutions where part of a building is delivered in a factory, maybe a chassis that then gets completed on site in local materials to a local aesthetic that actually creates or overcomes any concerns on the sort of local context. And also, probably the last point I'd make is the big planning upside and the big community upside of modular delivery is the massive reduction in the disruption to communities through the construction process. If you're bringing 70% of a home from a factory already built, then the amount of lorry movements, the amount of noise, the amount of environmental disruption that goes on will be absolutely transformed. And I think that's a big sell that planners in this country don't really understand. They're nervous about the aesthetic opportunities that I think we need to debunk those myths. So there's a lot there that I have to unpack, but hopefully that gives you a sense of what I think the opportunity is to absolutely deliver great places and great homes using modular techniques.
Yep.
You're on mute.
Oh gosh, that gets said far too often these days. I wanted to ask Mark, one of our audience just asked if you could please post a link to the report that you mentioned. And I'll hand over to Robert Luck from Latest Homes next to talk about how he uses modular construction to actually build communities.
Thank you, Martin, and thank you, Mark, for your comments. I think I'd echo much of what you say. In terms of Lattice, I think that on the one hand, there's the modular manufacturers, and on the other hand, there's the architects and designers. What Lattice seeks to do is join it all up as an integrated platform to deliver whole new communities. And I think that it's really interesting that the question is, can you create beautiful, popular, healthy streets with modular construction? Well, of course you can, but you can also you can also not create healthy, happy streets with traditional construction. It's all about the intentions to start with. And I think that's where Lattice really excels, in that we set out from the very beginning to develop a scheme from first principles. And in terms of where the schools are located, parks and high streets and town centres and civic buildings that make a place, the homes are just one element of that. And I think that it's difficult to sort of just say, can a manufacturer create a beautiful home? Of course they can, but it's how do you create a volume product that's produced in a factory at scale with the advantages of environmental and finishing advantages and speed advantages that Mark touched on, but also how do you hyper-localize that product with local vernacular, local materials. And I think that's where modular really excels, because you can put upfront design effort in designing a product designing a home really well for delivery at scale. Because once you achieve the scale, then you can take benefits of more affordability. You can actually put more effort in upfront design and how you create these streets that are more successful than the typical housing, just a typical housing estate. I think it's interesting that this conversation is happening now because the industry is still in its infancy. It's still at the very beginnings of a whole new event that's going to happen in home building. And it's great that we have L&G and other people on the line from different modular manufacturers. But essentially, I think the focus to date has been about how do you create this new industry? How do you create homes in a factory like a car? How do you apply some of those technologies and thought processes to the production of a 2 or 3 or 4 bedroomed home? I think now it's superb. The conversation is shifting towards how do you make those homes beautiful? How do you create beautiful places using this phenomenal technology? Because this technology enables us to deliver at a scale we've never seen before if it's integrated properly. And I think that's a real solution to some of the UK's housing problems. But it also could be a negative if it's not dealt with right, if the intentions, like I mentioned at the beginning, aren't correct. And I think that the sort of introduction of design codes and design principles that are related to a local context are particularly important. I'm hoping that will develop over the coming years, and I think that the manufacturers will respond to the demand much like any other consumer product. So that's my remarks on
that. Thank you, Robert. And Rosie Toogood from L&G, who runs the biggest modular factory in the country. Rosie, can you tell us, what do you think?
Sure. So just a little bit about, we're very much aligned, myself and Mark and Robert, and, as you might expect on the panel together, we've spent at Legal & General the last 3 years, preparing for exactly what Robert and Mark are talking about. We've built our product range. We now have 2, 3, 4 bedroom homes and 1 and 2 bedroom apartments. And, they are now, we now have a manufacturing method in place, designs accredited, and, training in place to make sure that we can train our teams to deliver these homes to very high quality. And we're really now starting to ramp up production and deliver to site, having delivered our first prototypes to site. And, the important thing is that, as Robert and Mark have just said, it's not about building boxes in a factory and then, waving them goodbye as they leave the door. This is about an integrated solution, a solution that is, you're making places, not just individual houses. So, at Legal & General, we've built the capability to do that end-to-end role. So we are, we're now a turnkey, main contractor, master developer. So we have the ability to, and are starting to deliver schemes of houses which are typically 100 plus homes with a lot of variety. So 2, 3 and 4 bedrooms, houses, 1 and 2 bedroom apartments in street scenes of the like you can see behind me. So these are real examples of developments that we are, in the case of Selby, looking at, and actually are starting to deliver right now, and others that we're looking at to develop with customers. And the focus is on place. The focus is on creating great communities, and a lot that's relatively simply done with a little bit of care. So great focus on sustainability. All of our homes will be delivered with an energy performance certificate of A, meaning occupants have low energy bills through life. The houses are extremely comfortable to live in and simple to operate. And also making sure that the places in which they're located have, nice street scenes, easy parking access, slow roadways, little pocket parks for people to play in and congregate, tree-lined streets, and biodiversity at least neutral and potentially gain in most of the developments that we're looking at. And really, some of these things are actually, if as a modular developer, you're involved right from the start with the client. You can start to set about the development, really thinking about these things right from the start. And that's the thing that I think is really important, that, people, when they're thinking about developing in modular, don't turn up to a factory and say, I've done all of the design and I'd just like you to manufacture these boxes, that they really engage us really early on in the process, and we start to understand what they want as a client and what they're trying to deliver for their customers, and we get inside their head and we start to deliver really nice places like this. And the concept that we've developed is one where we develop the bare module, as we call it, in the factory. So we then take that module, which is fitted out with all of the services fitted, so plumbing, kitchens, bathrooms, all of the floor coverings and wall coverings, doors, homes. Literally live in it as the modules deliver to site once the services are connected. But we then clad it and put the roof on site, so you can create street scenes that blend with the local vernacular, that have the kind of variety that a traditional development can have, and we can create really nice places that blend with the local environment and create that sense of belonging and individuality that people want. So our focus is on kind of making the standard stuff, the structural stuff, the stuff that the customer doesn't really care about from a point of view of what it looks like. The things that they really want to know are robust and designed well and are going to last. We make them things standard, and we really focus on the things that the customer wants and create that sense of individuality. So as Mark says, you've got that kind of level of customization possible on a few things so that people feel it's their own home. So kitchens and bathrooms and floor coverings starting. And it is really the start of the journey. We're not yet, as an industry, fully capable of offering the kind of feel of variety that the automotive industry got to after about 40 years. But we'll get there a lot faster than the automotive industry because we learn from what they've done. So, focus very much on creating an integrated product, being able to deliver turnkey products and creating really nice street scenes that blend with what both the customers want and the local area. And absolutely modular is now ready, and a number of modular manufacturers are now ready to deliver that offering to the marketplace. And I think, the modular market is really at the point of starting to grow quite rapidly in the UK.
Thank you, Rosie. So, Mark, we had a comment on your remarks saying that we need to be really careful about the modular must look different to traditional argument. Most people don't want fancy design, just something that is built well. MMC shouldn't be just about encouraging architects to go nuts unless you want it to stay niche. What do you think?
Yeah, maybe that my remark was slightly misinterpreted. I think what I was alluding to was some of the volume house builder identikit housing that's out there that's built traditionally with bricks and mortar doesn't look that pleasing. I'm not saying that we shouldn't replicate the vernacular where it works and where people are familiar with it, because clearly part of the planning debate is to get people looking at something and just identifying with it. And it's clear that there is a place for contemporary design and there's also a place for traditional vernacular, and you have to do both. I don't think, there are obviously going to be opportunities where you can do something interesting architecturally, but as the question alludes to, you also don't want to go nuts necessarily if that's not what the market is. And you have to respond to your market, you have to respond to the planning context. And I think the versatility of modular to do different things, whether it's a single family dwelling that can create a really impressive contemporary modern looking home, or it's actually a group of stone-clad, terraced, semi-detached, detached properties in a way that someone would recognise as being the norm is absolutely achievable through all of the techniques we have. And I think I'd point to a particular example, and it's in the report that I've posted on the chat. So there's a collaboration at the moment between a housing association down in Dorset, Magna Housing Association, and a local modular manufacturer, Roll Along. And Dorset is a pretty sensitive place to be building. You can imagine the sensitivities around conservation areas, area of outstanding natural beauty. It's a UNESCO World Heritage Site in part. And actually Magna have made a conscious decision that they can square the circle of achieving local context architecturally using manufacturing just through the cladding solutions and the typologies being varied enough for them to be able to to manufacture on a pattern book basis, pick that solution up, put it into a local village where it's been approved for a consultative process, and actually avoid all the disruption I spoke about earlier, because actually within a couple of weeks, the whole development can be delivered with minimum disruption to the community. And then you look at it and it's clad in Portland stone, or it's clad in some kind of local material, and you can't tell. So I think, and that's addressing the issue about what people expect to see as a traditional. So it doesn't have to look different. But what I'm saying is that parts of what we deliver on a volume basis, I just don't think is acceptable anymore from an architectural perspective.
Martin Valentine said, we marketed our first MMC scheme on the basis of, look, they are just like normal houses, but just much higher quality. We had to demystify and re-risk it for buyers to stop them going to Barrett's up the road. Worked very well. So that seems to chime with what you've just said, Mark. So we've had a question here saying that the government is seeking to simplify planning, and there's targets for MMC delivery. But do we also need to look at procurement frameworks and how these can be more efficient? This is a real obstacle for some of my modular clients, says Johanna Bradford. Well, maybe that's one for Rosie. Do we need to look at procurement?
Yes, I think so. In short, there are. I'm about to rewrite government policy on this conference, but there are. The thing that takes the longest in this process is the upfront procurement process. Building the modules and building on site actually ends up being the quickest element of it. And we work with a number of clients who are struggling to get through that early phase. So I think two things. Sort of more competition in this space, good competition with good quality providers, but also more optionality for customers, but also simpler procurement rules that kind of enable collaboration to happen far more easily than it does. I think inevitably, as a kind of industry gets off the ground, there's a need for some of the early adopters to be able to kind of work in partnership with the modular providers and modular development companies and take some risk. I think that's quite challenging with current procurement rules.
Mark, do you have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think procurement is a major barrier at the moment to the growth of the industry, as Rosie has said, that there is a fixation at the moment with lowest price transactional procurement. Modular and modern methods of construction inherently needs early engagement between a developer and design team and a manufacturer. That doesn't tend to be the normal model of procurement. Architects will design in isolation. They'll go get a planning consent and then engage the supply chain, and that doesn't work well. So we need more integrated procurement routes that as Rosie said, encourage collaboration and early engagement. There's a price sensitivity point as well that modular sometimes struggles with. I think it will overcome as we get to scale, because the economies kick in and you get economies of scale. That means that gradually modular will converge, if not improve, on a traditional price point, because you'll have to scale there. But yeah, procurement, is a big barrier. Government has a role to play in leading that, both from a land disposal perspective and also from a construction commissioning perspective. And the affordable housing programme announcement in the last couple of weeks, where nigh on £12 billion for the 21-26 programme, has now got some specific allocations for MMC included in a modular build, is an interesting first step. So for me, the devil will be in the detail as to how Homes England now administer that target and how it's procured.
Here's a good question on, we already have a major problem in the UK with the over dominance of the Big 10 house builders. How do we ensure MMC encourages diversification of suppliers, and rather than making the problem even worse with sort of a new winner takes all in the modular market? Robert, do you have any thoughts?
I think go at that. I think the interesting thing is this sets a whole new playing field for developers to create their own home building businesses. I think that Whereas a major home builder has to have all of the infrastructure, all of the overhead, all of the people involved in building homes. Actually, this shifts the emphasis. A SME or smaller home builder can utilize the power and manufacturing capabilities of LNG and others in the market, etc. So actually, they could probably end up delivering more homes as an SME home builder than they would if they did traditional construction. So I think actually we might see the dynamics completely change of the dominance of the major home builders, given this availability of technology to everybody.
Here's another question. Can I ask Rosie to explain a bit about why LNG has found this process so hard? Obviously, LNG had originally expected to be manufacturing 3,000 homes a year some years ago, but the progress has been slower. What lessons have been learned from it, and how confident are you now that you're ready to deliver?
Yeah, okay. It's not easy is the short answer. And it's not just LNG that have kind of taken some time to get to market. And that's about doing it well and building, we're not just building houses and pushing modules out the door. We're building the system that will deliver thousands of homes a year. And to do that, you've got to really pay attention and make sure you get the design right. And to do that, you have to understand your market. You have to take that through a prototyping and accrediting process. And that itself takes time as well. And you have to build the capability within the business, train people, develop your process, and make sure you can build and build consistently and build repeatably. So it takes time to get there. I think, as we talked about also, the frustrating thing is once you're there, the planning process then starts to take time. So, once you've built the capability, you can engage with customers and have meaningful conversations about what you can deliver. You're then into a planning and scheme development phase, which takes some time. So I think, not just LNG, but all of the kind of modular manufacturers and developers have found, the ones that are going to be delivering at scale have found it's taken time to go through that process. That's not untypical of, setting up a new industry, and it is new. It's not just like everything else. It's a new system. Apologies, that's our weekly fire alarm. I didn't even thought about that. So it's not just about building. It is about building homes differently, and it's about building the system to build homes. So that takes time. In terms of confidence, we've been through prototyping. We've delivered our first homes, and we've got very positive feedback from people who are living in those homes. And we are now, a long way down the track on our first major development of over 100 homes. Built substantially all of the modules that are ready to go into that development. Pass them off from a quality perspective, and ready to start building at scale in the next few weeks. So high confidence that we're there to deliver, and also the pipeline behind that first major development is building. So very much confident that we are now clicking through the gears and we'll be delivering at scale.
Thanks, Rosie. So John Spence, an architect, said agree wall thicknesses, chassis sizes, and story heights so that all manufacturers can make and all architects can use. Mark, what do you think? Is that a good suggestion? Realistic?
Yeah. So there's an interesting debate going on about standardization, and it's relevant because government is approaching other building assets, particularly schools, hospitals, prisons, from that perspective, in moving to what we would term a platform design approach. And that's easy if you're the government commissioning a whole load of new hospitals or schools, because the government's the client. It can actually decide what the parameters are by which it wants these schools designed. It can create a kit of parts. It can create standards, and actually it's in the driving seat. In the residential market, we don't have that. So there's a really interesting challenge of how we replicate and move towards that model, probably over a period of time where you don't frustrate the efforts of the likes of Rosie and other manufacturers who invested a lot of money in coming up with high performing quality advanced manufacturing systems. So you don't want to destabilize that investment. You want that to prosper, you want that to bed down, and you want that to do well. But then there's how do you get the rest of the market, particularly maybe the SME market, SME manufacturing market, to aggregate? And aggregation is one of the key challenges we have in terms of borrowed scale. So if you're a small scale manufacturer, it's really difficult to get access to land opportunities, to have a constant order book. And one of the things that could change that is the sense of collaboration, where you do agree standards, you do agree elements of commonality around design performance, whether it might be spatial parameters, it might be, as is said there, wall thicknesses or floor to ceiling heights. And actually everyone can still manufacture in their own ways and they have their own systems, but you're all delivering a constant or more common product. And that needs aggregation on the demand side. So actually there's a role for government, maybe Homes England, to convene the market into a structure that enables those standards to be set and for the market to migrate to that position over a period of time, that enables the smaller players to converge, enables the larger players to carry on doing what they're doing really well, and ultimately everything to converge. And you just have more standardization without resorting to cookie cutter architecture, which is what we're trying to avoid here. So, and technology will be the enabler of that, in my view. Mass customization will only work when we get digital manufacturing, digital design really working. So it's a really interesting point. It's quite complex, and it's where the car industry is, for instance. Again, lots of automotive comparisons, but the journey for residential is going to be more complex because of the hugely fragmented nature of the supply and the demand.
Thank you, Mark. I was wondering, so one of the issues with modular construction is that the difficulty of delivering it for market homes, because house builders will only build homes at the rate they can sell them, and that means it's quite hard to place an order for 100 homes at the same time. So can we only build modular communities for social housing or build to rent, or do you really see this as a possibility for market homes?
Is that to me?
Maybe Robert?
Okay. Absolutely. I think that there should be no difference between a affordable home or a private sale home or any form of tenure. I think that modular is applicable to every tenure type, and I think that everybody's demonstrated actually the underwriting of a modular home is probably better than a traditionally built home anyway. So the NHBC, BLP Alliance, all of the main warranty providers are very happy with a modular product and can be mortgaged like any other new home. So I don't think there's any issues. And I certainly wouldn't want to distinguish modular only for a particular type of tenure. I think it would be quite a dangerous thing to do.
I think maybe the bigger challenge is how do you get market absorption? So obviously when you have a cyclical for sale market, that doesn't work well with modular manufacturing, who want a flow of orders year in, year out. And that suggests that actually the modular market needs to align across a whole broad range of tenures, including social rent, affordable rent, new innovative models, in terms of the models that are more about affordability, that have depth of demand sitting behind them, that even in a fragile for sale market are still actually being absorbed. If we can structure that market in the correct way, then I think we're in business.
And certainly the developments that we're working on now at both Selby and Bristol have a high proportion of social housing, but are predominantly private sale.
That's very interesting. So I think we might have chance for one more question if anyone wants to stick up their hand online. So let's see if there's any more. Last question then from me. Rosie, so how do you think COVID has affected your marketplace and your manufacturing?
Yeah, in terms of the marketplace, we've really seen no change. There've been some slight delays just for practical reasons of getting things done as we go through planning with some of our schemes. But the demand from housing associations and local authorities has really, kept up during COVID. And, from a manufacturing perspective, we've carried on through COVID. We had a short break of about 3 weeks where actually we were able to be quite productive in the way in which we, made some improvements to our processes. But we've been able to implement COVID secure measures and make sure, because of the way in which we manufacture, we can keep people separated and keep people safe and wearing a high level of PPE. So that's been good.
Thank you, Rosie. That's all we have time for today. Thank you very much for joining us for this discussion on modular construction and building communities. Goodbye.